In the end, it was resolved. As of the writing of this article, no charges have been filed against the children or their parent. I find that remarkable. I mean, not
See if
against the
that
children.
lasts. The
But
article's interesting because the news source, by the way, is a British
yeah,
news source.
Daily
Yeah,
News,
so
daily.co.uk.
that's kind of interesting. But
Mm-hmm.
it does. I mean, in case like the way this kind of gets resolved, as far as I can follow the narratives, like the officers fire some less lethal
They do.
rounds purposefully at the wall next to these boys.
Yeah.
I presume to kind of cause these boys to kind of snap out of the issue or to drop to the ground or in some way kind of force them to comply or allow the officers to approach. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. The sheriff said this was learned behavior. He said, suggesting their actions in the video was not an innocent misunderstanding. That's one thing that's kind of sad to read. We know one side is going to say, lock them in jail. They're 7 and 9 years old. I told you before numerous times, I understand the frontal lobe. Interesting that he has that perspective to be like, these are kids that don't fully understand what they were doing, not fully accountable for their actions in this case.
They're doing what they've been taught.
I think the cops made the right call in that way. They seized the weapon, and it does say that the behavioral health unit and probably child protective services and whatnot are getting involved. Anyway, the what not to do here really was it really was about a reminder of how important it is that we properly store our firearms. It's unacceptable these young boys got a hold of this gun like this for a long enough time for them to be out and about playing around with it like they were. Both of them are so fortunate to have not accidentally shot one another
That no
or
one was shot is
themselves
remarkable.
or
Yeah.
anybody else at
Yeah.
all. Exactly.
I mean, it just takes one cop who just is a little bit unconcerned about the outcome of these boys to say, oh,
Yeah.
that kid just pointed a gun at me. I'm gonna put a bullet in him.
I give them props for using restraint. I mean, this
Yeah.
apparently went on for quite a while as
A
they
long
tried to negotiate with these underage terrorists.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I think the other key here, I think it's really easy to hear a story like this and say, that's not my family, right? Like, rather you have kids this age, you just said, it's really easy to be like, oh, that would never happen in my house. Like, my kids have better respect or we secure the guns or whatever thing. But I think it's a good reminder to just kind of talk to, children about these kinds of situations and give them an opportunity to, revisit these things. When kids are under a high amount of stress or there's a lot of stimulus, that tends to scramble the brain a bit. And so repetition and having these conversations over and over again goes a long way.
Yeah. Yeah. Appreciate those of you watching live and offering some comments. Paul said he saw part of that video last week. There is some body cam footage and there's the drone footage as well. And then Paul said he believed to recover the weapon, they used a flashbang eventually to distract them and then move in. Yes, that sounds about right. But anyway, yeah, quite a story and an incident, and kudos to those cops, I think, for again using restraint and doing everything in their power to avoid what could have been a much more unfortunate outcome. It reminds me, Jacob, of it was actually a Adams County deputy here in the Colorado Front Range area when I went through my post instructor school. I can't remember if it was a handgun course or the patrol rifle course I went through, but I remember him sharing a story of encountering a young boy. I don't remember the exact age. I want to say maybe 10 or 11, and he was armed with a sword. It was his mother that called on him because he had the sword and he was waving it about and threatening family members. And so Adams County deputies responded, and one of my instructors was one of those that responded. And it's like, hey, I'm faced with this little boy who has a sword.
Yeah.
And he made this very difficult call. I mean, like, that's a lethal weapon, and he was waving it about, and he just waited for the right moment to just rush in and take control of that boy's arms and hands and ultimately the sword and grab him and wrestle that away from him and bring that to a resolution. He's like, legally, I could have shot him.
Yeah, it would have been.
You know
It
what I
probably
mean?
would have been considered
He's
a
like,
valid shoot. Yeah.
but would that have been what's right for me? He's like, I would have struggled living with myself.
Couldn't get there. Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
it's also a good reminder for us that folks, I mean, bad guys come in various shapes and sizes and ages.
Sure.
And we see quite a few stories. There's probably some more here we're going to cover today that involve juvenile criminals. You know, yeah, do the best you can, but understand that some of these youngins can kill you.
Yeah, and will.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Next story. This takes us out of our what not to do stories. Now we're into the justified safe stories. Out of Evansville, Indiana, suspect shot and killed during Evansville break-in. 2 other suspects on the run.
Not a lot of detail here,
No.
but presumably, what you get kind of from the narrative is that you have 3 bad guys who collectively break into a home. And in the course of that home invasion, the homeowner is armed, and opens fire up and fatally wounds one of the 3 intruders. The other 2 make it out and run off and are at large.
Yeah. Not a lot of details, so not a whole lot of analysis to do here. I think the one reason why I wanted to include this story today, though, was to make a point about how people generally have a misunderstanding about castle doctrine law,
Yeah, Sheriff does a great job here,
including law enforcement. He says we are yeah, exactly. This is it's a public information officer of the Evansville Police Department. He says we are a castle doctrine state, so you are allowed to use that kind of force to protect your home.
But then he goes on to say something that actually does have some intelligence to it.
Yes. But that's part of the investigation to determine if that standard was met. So the investigation is still very brand new.
Yeah, I like this as a detail.